Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Have you been excited to plan for a trip and then you go to a booking site and then you got stunned with something like this? So it's an endless form that requires a lot of information from your end, including your travel details, your travel information, activities and interests, preferences, and so on, right? And by the time you complete filling out this form, you've lost all your interest or excitement for the trip. But what if I told you, instead of filling out this form, you would just need to write something like, I want to travel to Paris in the next 5 days, and I will be staying for about 2 weeks, and my budget is XYZ. And after a few minutes, you've got a complete itinerary that includes information such as flights, accommodations, and activities. How cool is that? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly the step-by-step of how to build an AI travel agent that is powered by n8n, so that you can basically just message it and then you receive a complete itinerary in a few minutes. So this is the workflow I'm going to show you. This is the workflow, a complete workflow. So what do we have in this workflow? So first of all, we have the first agent that extracts your needs, and the second agent is planner agent that plans details of the trip, and then the email agent that drafts an email and sends to you. So basically we have three agents in this workflow. I'm going to walk you through all of these agents, how to build them step by step. But this is the overview of how the workflow looks like, right? So let's get started. So I'm going to delete this workflow and I will start from scratch. Right. So let's start with a chat trigger. And why do we want a chat trigger? Because we want to receive a message from the user or from yourself that basically includes some basic information about your trip, what you want to do, where you want to travel to, and the agent needs to extract information from your message in order to plan for the trip, right? So this is our very first step, that is when chat message received. Okay, and what do we do next? So from this chat message, our agent needs to extract your needs from your query, right? So I'm going to connect this chat to an AI agent. So we go to here, and then we can select the AI agent here, and I'm going to name this agent again, extract user request. Okay, so what does this agent do? This agent will extract your information, the information from your text message, and then extract your intentions, where you want to go, when you want to go, and how many people you're traveling with, and so on, right? So what do we have in this agent? So first of all, we're going to add a system message because we want to provide information for this agent, right? And what is included in the system message? So is a prompt. I'm going to copy and paste this prompt in. Right, so this is the prompt we have for this extract information agent. So this agent is basically an expert information extraction specialist focusing on passing travel requests with intelligence. So basically it has its own expertise in extracting information from the requests, and the requests must be about travel, right? And then what is the input? Input is basically your text message. And the output is basically it needs to identify the information from your needs. So it needs to identify the origin, so where you're from, where you're traveling to, and then destination is basically where you're traveling to, departure, when you want to travel, when you want to return, and duration of your trip. So all of these information you don't have to type yourself. So basically the agent needs to extract all of these information from your message, right? And then it basically needs to extract all other information such as trip type, your budget, and so on. Of course, you don't need to understand all of these information. This is the prompt I've crafted, and I provide the prompt to you as well. Right. So the important thing here is that we need to provide the time for this agent, because as we all know, AI is not very intelligent in terms of time. So we need to provide the current time, the system time to the AI agent, so it is aware that, okay, this is the moment that it needs to start planning from. Why is that? Because if you say something in the chat message like, I want to travel to Paris in the next 5 days, so it doesn't know what is the next 5 days and when is the next 5 days. So if it is because it doesn't have the information about what is now, right? We do, but the AI agent doesn't, right? So we need to provide it this information so that it knows that, okay, this is the current time, and then the next 5 days it has to plus 5 days in order to plan accordingly, right? Okay, this is the prompt for this agent. And what do we want in this agent? What do we want this agent to output? We want the agent to output all the information it extracts, right? So let's first connect a chat model to this agent. So we're going to use OpenAI chat model. So with this information, we need an agent that is smart enough in order to extract information from the user's request, because sometimes there's misinformation. All right, so we want the agent to be smart enough. So I'm gonna be skeptical. I'm gonna use a bigger model. So it's gonna be 4.1 instead of 4.1 mini. So we'll use a full 4.1 model from GPT. Right, so we have the AI model, but we want the information to be returned as a JSON object, because we want the next agent to process the JSON. So, and we can't trust GPT in providing the output as the JSON. So we need to turn on this one, which is require specific output format. So with this, we ask the agent to produce the output as a JSON object. So if you don't know what JSON is, so JSON is basically a JavaScript object notation. So basically it's a kind of information to be returned in key pair values, right? So we want to turn on this, but when we turn that on, we have another branch here in our AI agent, so this output parser. We want to connect it to a structured output parser. And we will select define using JSON schema. And this schema will be a long one. So I'm going to provide this schema to you as well. But at the moment, I'll just copy and use my schema here. So what is included in this schema? So in this schema, what you see is information that I've just walked you through, including the origin, destination, departure, return, duration, travel information, and so on. So the agent needs to know all of these information, right? Okay, so let's test it out to see what we can have from this agent, right? So I'm gonna open up the chat. So I'm gonna type in, I want, but first, if you remember, I haven't put in the information here, but it has already done so. Right, so let's do it. I want to travel to Paris in the next 5 days, and I will travel with my partner. We will stay for about 2 weeks. Okay, so hit enter, and as you can see, the agent is extracting information from our input. And let's see what we have from the output. So as you can see, the output of the agent is destination Paris, departure here, and duration is 14 days if we set 2 weeks, right? So departure here, it knows that it's the 27th of July 2025 because it has the information of the current time, which is now, and I'm saying that I will travel to Paris in the next 5 days. So it plus 5 days into this, and then the departure is 27th of July. Okay, and the trip type is leisure, urgency soon, group type couple. So you see, I didn't say anything about trip type leisure, but I just said I want to go to Paris with my partner. So the agent assumes that that's going to be a leisure trip. And urgency is soon, because we said 5 days. And the group type is couple. That's fine, because I'm traveling with my partner. Okay, great. So now we have information from this agent. So we need to have the planner agent that collects the information, finds the relevant information, including flights, accommodations, and activities for us, right? So we need to have the next agent. So I'm going to connect this to the next AI agent that is here. So I'm going to call this agent a planner agent. So this planner agent, now we have it. And then I will also connect it to OpenAI. I'm going to use GPT 4.1 again. Right. So what does this agent do? As I said previously, this agent will plan for the trip based on information provided by this extract user request agent. So I am going to use the following prompt, which I'm going to copy and paste from my previous workflow. So I'm going to add a system message here, and then I'm going to put in this prompt. It's going to be a long one again. So this agent will be an expert travel planning specialist, and it has the information about the global destinations, flight routing, accommodation standards, activity durations, curation, and so on. So basically, from the provided information from the previous agent, this agent will go out and search for information that is relevant. Okay, and then we will need to provide tools for this agent to go and search for information. So it needs to search for flights, it needs to search for information, accommodations, it needs to search for activities that are relevant to the place that you are arriving. Right, so I'm going to connect the tools to this agent. So you see tool here, and then we need to provide a tool to this agent. If you recall from my previous video, if you haven't watched this video, please watch it. It's about HTTP requests, and that's exactly what we are going to do here. So the very first thing we need this agent to do is to search for flights, right? So how do we search for flights? So I'm going to use something called SERP API. So this is the Google API that searches for information such as flights, accommodations, hotels, and so on. So if you go to SERP API and you register for an account, you will see something like this. If you go to dashboard, serpapi.com, and dashboard, and you see something like what I'm seeing here. Right. And here on the left-hand side, you will probably see something like these ones. So these are the Google APIs that basically connects to Google search for specific information. So we're going to use the Google Flights API here. So in this Google Flights API, as you can see, we have a documentation for what the request looks like. And if you don't know what HTTP request is, I highly recommend you watch my previous video for that. Right. Okay, so we're going to use the SERP API in order to provide a tool for our agent in order to provide the flight information relevant to our request. Right, so if you look into this SERP API and then you see something about Google Flights API like this, that's good. But in n8n, we have access to SERP API. So if you go to tool and then you search for SERP API, and you can see SERP API official tool here. So I'm going to click on this. And it's quite a handy way for making an HTTP request, because we can obviously make the HTTP request ourselves, but because we have a tool here, so it's quite handy to use it. So first of all, what you need to do with this is I'm going to rename it to flights, and then we need to connect it to our SERP API account. So if you haven't connected it, then you should do so with your API key. I've got my API key on my dashboard of SERP API, so I've connected here. So if you haven't done so, you can click here and then create a new account, and you just need to copy and paste your API key here, right? And then the tool description, what we want to do here is just leave it as default, set automatically. And we have resource is search, and operations is, we don't want Google search, we want Google Flights. As we see in this API, we want Google Flights. So we can select flights. And departure airport, we don't know it yet, so we just click on this button. That means that let the model define, because our agent needs to be smart enough, right, in order to get the information from our user in order to define which airport we are traveling from. And then the arrival airport, also we need to let our agent define. The outbound day, it's the same, we let our agent define, because we don't want to mess with information at all, right? We want the user just to provide information in a very vague way as possible, so that our agent basically extracts information. And then later on, you can improve this workflow by, asking a confirmation message. It's like, where you traveling from, asking extra information from the user. But at the moment, I don't want to do that. Right, so outbound date, we're going to also set to defined by the model. Same for return date, and then trip type. We also let the age, we just leave it as route trip as for now. But we want our model or our agent to know more information about these fields, so we can add some descriptions. So for example, for departure airport, so I'm going to say this one, departure ID must not be empty. How do I know that's departure ID? Because I look into the Google Flights API documentation here, and we can see departure ID, that's the ID of the airport code that we are departing from, right? And then the same for arrival airport. We might look into this, and we say arrival ID, and then we can add here as well, arrival ID must not be empty. And we have the outbound date. We also add the description here. When I experimented with this agent, sometimes the agent would put the outbound date to be a past day. So we need to ensure that the agent doesn't put the past day into this outbound date, which will cause the issue in our API. So we're going to say the date of departure and must not be in the past. And the return date, and it's another issue. Sometimes our agents would do something like, it will provide the return date to be less than the outbound day, which is not the case, right? So we're gonna add this description, which says this is the date of return and must not be in the past and must be greater than the outbound day. Great, so now we have the tool for our agent. And with the next tool that we are going to connect to this agent, we have the flight search tool, and then we need to have the accommodations. And as I said, SERP API also provides information about accommodations. As you can see here, we have Google Hotels. So we assume that our user wants to stay in hotels. So we connect to this Google Hotels API. And again, we're gonna click on this plus sign under the tool, and when we're gonna search for SERP API feature tool, and then we go through the credentials again. But in here, operation, we're gonna search for hotels. Okay, so we don't have the hotels in this SERP API tool. That's okay. We can basically use an HTTP request to do it. So I'm going to say we will use HTTP request tool. Okay, now we need to go back to Google Hotels API, and then we need to find out what URL it is. Right, so we need to go here, and then we need to copy this URL, and then we paste it here. As you can see, we have the engine equals to Google Hotels, and it follows by a question mark. So this is a query parameter. So this is a query parameter. If you haven't known what query parameter is, I would highly recommend you watch my previous video for this. So the engine is Google Hotels because we are searching for accommodations, and the method is get because it defines here it's a get request. Okay, right. But if you are not sure if it's going to be Google Hotels or should use Google Maps for accommodations, then we can leave this part for AI agent to define. So, and this is query parameter, so I'm not gonna put it in directly in a URL. Instead, I'm gonna say query parameters. And the query parameters here, as you can see, we can basically provide something like this: search query. It's a queue, and there's a queue parameter here, it's a search query. So I'm not gonna hard code it here. Instead, I'm gonna use the queue parameter, and the value I will let our AI agent define, because the agent will need to go out and search for information related to accommodations or hotels. So we're going to let the value of the queue to be defined by our model or agent. And then importantly, we need to connect to the authentication, and we're going to use a generic credential type, and then we connect to query auth. Why do I use query auth instead of header auth or other types of authentication? Again, it comes from this SERP API documentation. If you go and read from the start, and then you can see that you need to connect to the query authentication in order to get it done. Okay, right, so I'm gonna leave it here, and I'm gonna send the queue parameter. Right, and what else we need to do in here? Pretty much done, right? But if we search for accommodation, we need to find out the check-in date and the checkout date, right? And let's say I will basically send the body parameters, because in this Google Hotels API, we can see that there are some advanced parameters here, and these are the body parameters. So we have check-in dates, checkout dates, and so on. So we're gonna send some information like that. So first of all, we will, let's say, we'll figure out the engine as well. You can put the engine directly in the URL as well, but I'm gonna put it here just in case we need our agent to define the value of Google Hotels or a different engine. And then the next one is we are going to specify the check-in date. So the check-in date is also defined by our agent, because the agent has information from the previous agent about your departure and arrival date. So basically, we're gonna leave check-in date as defined by the agent, and we also have the checkout date. And also the value is defined by our agent. And then also we need to have information about how many adults, how many children, and so on, because as we can see here, adults, children ages, and so on. So we can add some of those parameters here as well. So adults, also let the agent define. We're not gonna hard code here or zoom that there are 2 adults or something like that. So let our agent define. And then we need to have some sort of sorting mechanism. So let's say we provide a sort by parameter with a value of 8. If you want to change this, then please feel free to do so. I'm going to rename this one to accommodations. Right, and I'm going to change the description a bit. Okay, great. So now we have the accommodations and the flights. That's great. But the issue with this Google search is that when it searches for accommodations and returns a list of information, and then it doesn't return the details of the accommodation, which means you lack some information such as the thumbnail, images or some extra images of the accommodation, and also some detailed information about the accommodation, such as the amenities and so on. So we don't want to leave the user with some very generic information about the accommodations. We want detailed information. So I'm gonna connect to another tool. I'm gonna provide the agent with another tool that is called accommodation details. And with this tool, again, we are going to connect to HTTP request tool, and it's gonna be accommodation details. And then I'm gonna change this name to accommodation details, and the description to be request data, response data for hotel details. And where do we find information about this? Again, we go back to SERP API down here, and then as you can see, there's a property details in Google Hotels API, and we need to provide a property token. And where can we find this property token? It can be obtained from the previous tool, which is accommodation list. So basically, from the list of accommodations, each of the accommodation will have something called a property token, and this token will basically be used in here in order to obtain the details of the accommodation. So again, we're going to use Google search engine from SERP API. So the URL going to be here, and then the authentication, again, we're going to be query auth, and then we'll use SERP API key that I defined previously. And we send query parameters, which is Q as well, because our agent might want to send some extra information using the query search parameter. Right. And then I'm going to provide a description here for this Q parameter. And what it says is the Q value should be the same as the one used in the accommodation tool. Because if the Q is different, then the search result can be different. We don't want that. So we want the Q value to be the same as the accommodation tool. Right. And now, importantly, we need to add a property token in the query parameter. And why do I know this is a query parameter? Because that's what I read here. It's a parameter in here, because it provided the example, and the property token is on the same level with the Q parameter, and Q parameter is a query parameter, therefore it is a query parameter. Right, so we let our agent define the property token as well, because it obtains token from previous tool, and it needs to use the value exactly like that in this tool. And as you can see, we have the property token value can be obtained from each item returned by the accommodation tool. Okay, great. So now we have 3 tools available to our agent. So as you can see, we have 3 tools. And what else is missing? We are missing the activities, because we want to provide the user with some activities, right? So for the activities, I'm going to use a different tool, which is called Tavily AI. As you can see here, it's basically a search tool as well. So you can go to Tavily, app.tavily.com, and you register for an account, and you will have access to the API keys. So I'm gonna connect our agent to that tool as well. So I'm gonna be n8n. We have access to Tavily tool as well. So I'm gonna search for it, and I'm gonna connect our agent to Tavily tool. And if you haven't connected your Tavily account, then you can do so by clicking on this pencil button, and you can see you can put in your API key and the base URL, which is app.api.tavily.com. Okay, great. So now we want to search for activities. So I'm going to rename this one to activities. And then the resource, I'm going to be search operation query. That's correct. And then let's say, because the query here, we can type in anything, search for activities and so on, but we don't want to do it manually again. So we let our agent define it. Right. And then we're going to add some sort of options here. So we're gonna add search depth because we don't want our agent to go out and search forever. So I'm gonna choose search depth advanced, and the option is gonna be and the max results we want to return is 5 because we don't want to provide users with 10, 20 activities and so on. And with the search, we can provide the images to the user as well. So I'm going to say include images. So I'm going to let the agent decide whether it should include images, because some places or some activities do not have images, and it's not going to be good if it tries to obtain images from, nowhere. Right, so we have all the 4 tools for our agent. I think we are quite good to go with the prompt. If you go to the prompt, as you can see, the agent has access to these tools: flights, activities, accommodations, and accommodation details, which we have just done so. So by instructing the agent to use these tools, the agent can go out and search for flights, search for accommodations, and search for accommodation details and activities. Alright, now we want to connect our agent to the previous agent so that it can obtain information from the user's request, right? So we're going to do it in the user prompt, which is here. So we're going to change this to define below, and then we're going to copy in this one and paste it here. So basically, where is this information coming from? It comes from the previous request of the user. So as you can see, we put in json.output. Output is basically the output of the agent, the previous agent. And why do we want to stringify this? Because if you remove this one, let's say you just put json.output, as you can see here, we have the object. And obviously the agent cannot extract information from the object. So we need to stringify it. So json.stringify is a JavaScript function that basically turn a JSON object into a string. So that's what it does. So basically here is what we do. Right, so now we have the Planner agent pretty much done. We're all set to go. Great. So now, if you remember, we haven't told the agent where I'm from. So the agent doesn't know when or where we depart, right? So I'm gonna try again. So I'm gonna copy this message. I want to travel to Paris from Bristol. So I'm gonna add this. So the agent knows that, right, I'm gonna travel from Bristol to Paris. Okay, I'm gonna send this again. And as we can see, our extract user request agent has done its job, and the output is right here. So the origin is Bristol, destination Paris, and duration is 14 days, and so on. So now we have our Planner agent doing its job, but we have some issues here with accommodations. This tool. So let's see what it says. So we go here, you see bad request. Please check your parameters. It means that there's something wrong. The agent didn't put in the correct information. As you read the error caused here, and we can see it says bad request, please check your parameters. And we have adults query parameters can be non-negative integer only. So it means that our agent put in the adults query here with some negative numbers, which is not good, right? So we add a new description here, and we'll say number of adult travelers must be greater or equal 1. Right, so now we're gonna save this workflow and we'll try again and see how it goes. The chat message is gonna be, I want to travel to Paris from Bristol in the next 5 days. I will travel with my partner. We will stay for about 2 weeks. Right, so I'm gonna send the message again. Okay, great. So we can see that the accommodations tool has been executed successfully, and we see the accommodation details has been executed 3 times. So it means that probably there were 3 accommodations searches, and then the details were executed 3 times in order to obtain the details of those accommodations. And let's inspect our extract user request here. See, we have departure on the 22nd of July, which is not quite right? Because I said we're gonna depart in 5 days, and it still said that the departure is 22nd of July, which is today, the day of recording this video, which is not good. But we can fine tune it later on, right? Okay, now this planner agent has successfully executed everything, and we can see what is the output. So this is a very long output for this agent, but it's really hard to read because it is a JSON string with lots of special characters in here. So just leave it for a while. I'll just pin this node so the agent doesn't execute again. Right, so now, as I said previously, from our initial workflow, we have 3 agents. We have the extract user request agent, which we have done here, and plan agents also done, and now we need to have an email agent that will send the plan to your email. So I'm going to connect to another AI agent here, and it's going to be an email agent. So I'm going to name it email agent. So in this email agent, I'm going to take the output from the planner agent, which is that string, right? So I'm going to change this here to define below, and the travel plan is as follow in JSON format. So as you can see, we have JSON stringify JSON.output. Again, why do we need to stringify? Because this output, JSON output, is an object. And as it is an object, the agent cannot read information. We need to stringify it or turn this JSON object into a string. Right. And now we need to add a system message. And the system message is going to be like this. Right. So this agent will write an email. So basically, it will need to write the image in the HTML formats, and then it will basically need to extract information from the previous planner agent in order to write the corresponding email. Right. I'll provide you with a prompt as well. So we have 3 agents, and again, we're going to connect this email agent to OpenAI chat model. We don't need to basically use a very expensive model here. We can use GPT 4.1 mini. That's absolutely fine because we just write in email, right? For the previous 2 agents, we need more expensive models because we need to extract information, doing research. So that's why we want our agents to be smart and intelligent enough in order to extract enough information and conduct enough research. For this, we just need GPT 4.1 mini, and absolutely fine. Right, and what do we want from this? Again, we want to have the JSON to be parsed as the output. So with this, we will connect to the output structure node, which is structured output parser. And then what is in here? We will want this to be defined as JSON below. Right, so what do we want from this output from this email agent? So we want the subject of the email, the content of the email, and the summary. And what do we want in the summary? Just to summarize what the trip is about. For example, in the case where you want the agent to read out the information that it has done, how many accommodations, how many activities it has found, and so on. So we want a summary. Right, so we have this. But it seems our planner agent provides the output as a string, but we want to structure the output into a JSON object as well. So I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna require specific output format, and I'm gonna connect to structured output parser as well. So in here, what we can do is we're gonna copy this JSON schema. I'm gonna put it here, And you obviously you don't need to understand, or you need to get too close into this JSON schema. So basically this is a schema to define what the agent object should have, what attributes the agent object should have, right? So we have a ton of things here. This information is needed to write the email, right? So with this new structure output and with this email agent, so let's connect it to send email node. So let's say I want to send the email to my Google Mail account. So I'm going to connect to Google, or it's going to be Gmail, right? So we need to send a message. So we connect to this, and then if you haven't connected your Gmail account, then please do so. You can easily click on this button, and then what you can do is you can copy this URL and go to your Google Workspace or Google Cloud Console, copy this one there, user, and then generate the client ID and client secret. If you want me to make a video about how to do this, then please comment below, and then I'll do a video about how to connect your Gmail account into n8n. Right, and then I'm going to say to, which is my Gmail account. Right, and the object and the subject is going to be the outputs from our previous agent, if you remember. So I'm going to turn this to expression, and then it's going to be JSON.output. And in the output, we have the subject. So we're going to say subject. Of course, we can't see it here because we haven't executed yet, but let's see. The email type is going to be HTML because we asked our email agent to write the email content in HTML. And the message, again, we're going to do expression. And then we're going to type json.output.content. Okay, so it's going to be that simple for this send email, send message. Right, and then let's say I want to provide a summary as well. Let's say I'm going to use a set node in order to set a summary. So in this node, I will say going to be output, and it's going to come from our email agent. So the output value will be the JSON output of our email agent node, and that's going to be a summary. It's going to be simple like that. Right, so now we have a complete workflow. So let's try again. I'm going to copy the message. I'm going to reset all the chat. I'm going to paste my message here. And then we can execute to see if the workflow goes well. As you can see, the extract user request agent has done its job, but I'm still being bugged here because the departure date is quite incorrect, because we said that we want to travel in the next 5 days, and our agent is not smart enough and so I extract that, but I extracted the duration, which is 2 weeks and 14 days. That means it's okay. And then our planner agent is trying to access the tools here to do its research, and we can see the accommodations. It found some accommodations here, and then in the accommodation details, it uses the properties token of each accommodation in order to find the details of the accommodation. And then flights, it searches for flights from Bristol to Paris. And activities, it found some activities in Paris as well with some images and so on. Okay, great. So our email agent has also done its job. It wrote an email, which is a very long HTML and summary. Then we have sent the email to my email account, which is this email. And then I'll check my mailbox now. to see if I received the email from our agent, from our workflow. Right, so I received an email. It says romantic getaway to Paris, and it found the flight with the price here, accommodation, which is quite nice, right? And you see, with just a very brief message, you have kind of like a detailed plan like this, including what you can do, images. You can click on the link to see what it's going to be. These are the activities and accommodations as well. You can click on these to see the accommodations. For example, here, this is not affiliate link. So basically, all of these links are coming from my agent. Right, so that's one issue we need to address. That is the time. So possibly, because when I say it here, in the next 5 days, I will say I'll be traveling for 2 weeks. Well, English is not my first language, so I might not be expressing the right term here. So I'm going to try to, first of all, upgrade this agent to a higher end agent. I'm going to use O3 because O3 is more advanced in terms of logic. So I'm going to use the O3 Mini, and also I'm gonna change my text here, and let's ensure that our agent has access to the current system time. Yep, right. So I'm gonna try again and see how it goes. So I want to travel to Paris in 5 days, right? So I will say on Sunday this week. Okay, and then I'll send the message, see if our extract user request agents can do its job properly. Right, it seems it has done its job. Right, it's nice because now our agent can pick up the date correctly. Sunday this week is correctly on the 27th of July, which is 5 days from now, and I'll be staying for 2 weeks, and the return date is this date. That's correct. And now our planner agent is basically doing its job. Again, it found some accommodations this time. It found 4 accommodations, as you can see, together with the images and flights. So it found some flights here, which is nice. And then it has found some activities here. And the email agent is writing the contents right now. Right, it seems there was some issue with this email agent. Then let's address it. Premature close, so it was probably timeout. So I'm gonna execute this note again. Great, so now our email agent has successfully write the content, which is a very long content in HTML. And then I'm gonna execute this note in order to send the message to my inbox. And then this set field is basically for summary. So this is summary. So we can see that our agent has found information about our trip, and then the email has been sent to my mailbox. Right, so now let me check my mailbox again. So this one. So my trip to Paris on the 27th of July, returning on the 10th of August, and it found 3 flights with these prices, and the activities, the recommended activities, time, duration, booking, rating, and so on. And these are the accommodation options. We saw it executed the accommodation details 4 times previously. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we can click on these to go to the accommodation details player website to book for the hotels. Absolutely nice. Awesome. So now I have a travel agent that helps me with planning for my trip, which is absolutely great. Obviously, I'm going to explain to you again this workflow in this agent. And First of all, we have a text message from our user, and then we have an agent that extracts the text message information of the user. For example, we have the chat input, which is the message from the user saying, and they want to go to Paris from Bristol on Sunday this week, and they will be traveling with their partner, and then we're staying for about 2 weeks. So this extract user request agent, we need to extract information from this user, including where they travel to, where they travel from, departure dates, return dates, duration of the week, duration of the trip, the traveler's information, trip type, and group type group type, sorry. And then all the information here will be passed to this planner agent that will basically go out to the internet searching for activities, for accommodations, for flights, and so on. So after it's done this job, you have all the information you have, and then this email agent is quite optional because I want to send information to my email. In your case, you might want to send information to, let's say, a WhatsApp message or Slack or whatever communication ways that you prefer. So in this email agent, basically I will ask the agent to draft an email in the HTML format, and that HTML content will be sent to my email, and that's it. So this is the travel agent. Of course, you can improve this workflow a lot by asking the agent to confirm the information with you before it goes out and search for information, or ask for information it feels like there's a missing piece of information. You can improve this workflow in that way. But this is the generic idea. The idea is that you don't have to fill out an endless form and then you feel really, disencouraged to go on your trip. Right, so that's the end for this video. We have an AI travel agent that does the planning for us. If you like the video, please consider give us a like, a subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you. Bye.